Hello, folks. Greetings from SoCal. I used to live in SoCal. Hola! Ah! Oh, where's Daniel? Who's the guy who's tired? Oh, Jordan Peterson, I'm so tired of Jordan Peterson impersonating. I'm so tired of the Jordan Peterson impersonations. And one bear rollerbladers near a dumpster. That's hilarious. Another car stream. It's blizzardy. It's a blizzard here, so it's kind of fun. Makes me very happy that in the future I'll just be home during a blizzard because I will no longer work for the man. NASA being a Willy Wonka factory is hilarious. Yeah, it's pretty similar. It's pretty much the same thing, but it's almost like the Willy Wonka format is just all things media. One could say Wizard of Oz, but it's almost like they took Wizard of Oz in that one moment where there's a magical dude behind a curtain doing stuff. And they were just like, well, let's just make that, that curtain, what's behind it, let's just turn that into a massive thing. Hence, mainstream media, academia. What's going on, Remo? Nice slick hat or helmet. I don't know what that is. Yeah, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm catching up on all these paintings I'm doing. I'm working on, started one Jordan Peterson painting, which is someone purchased a 2 foot by 2 foot painting of J. Crow. So that's going to be cool to do. Still have to think of a saying. He basically just said, Jim Bob, can you paint me Jordan Peterson kind of like losing his mind? And I was like, oh, cool. Open. They're open to a lot of things there. Great. Plato's Cave, yeah. So, what else we got? I've been going really deeper into this whole, the arguments for God's necessity, and things are starting to make a lot of connections in my head. I was listening to this one talk this morning, and he was just the guy talking was referencing and the guy is Roy Clauser. He's the author of the book that I mentioned yesterday, that there's no such thing as religious neutrality because all beliefs assume something as divine, and by divine we mean absolute, unchanging, ultimate. And this is true because you can't really argue from any other perspective if you assume truth exists. And then he pointed to some really interesting counterpoints. For instance, if you ask like a materialist, what's their grounding for all things, to know what's possible, what's not possible, what in their view justifies anything, any sort of unity that we see and perceive and interact with the world. They'll have to just go to laws of nature, like a Tom Jump would say laws of nature. Some would say the laws of logic. But even if you chose both of those things, it doesn't answer the question. Because one, If you go with the first one, laws of logic, they're only descriptive, but they're absolute in that you can't refute them or challenge them. They can be used independently of describing physical reality, but physical reality holds to the same laws. But then the physical reality holds to physical laws. So there's two sets of laws. One's immaterial, laws of thought, and one's the laws of, let's say, nature or physics, which can be described and mirror the laws of logic. But if you say the ultimate thing that keeps all of this in unity, in one, that keeps it all, that maintains it, that maintains the regularity, that maintains that these things hold true over time. You could take either. Someone says laws of logic, you go, those are conceptual, they have no causal effect. They're descriptive and useful, but they don't make anything happen. The laws of logic don't make a rock stay a rock. They don't cause, the laws of logic don't cause seasons. But then if you say, well, the laws of physics, well, no, the laws of physics, just like the laws of logic, are descriptive of the world. So the laws of logic are descriptive of thought, and can determine coherency, incoherency, and they can describe the physical reality. And then the laws of physics, laws of thermodynamics, describe the physical world. They don't tell us what maintains those laws. The laws of physics don't maintain the laws of physics. They don't keep them in check, in constants, invariant. So if you ask someone that, and it's a really great question, by the way, because it really cuts through all the garbage, because when it comes down to it, someone who says God's not possible or not rational to believe in God or God doesn't exist, they're basically assuming they have some access to an ultimate and absolute binding force, a rule, a principle. And all they could possibly do is say, well, that's not possible. And then you go, well, based on what? And then they have to say, well, laws of physics, it doesn't make sense. And you say, well, how do you know those are, what holds those in place? Because it's the same question. The reasoning of why they deny something exists, the tools they use, they have no justification for. So it's like, okay. So they can't actually tell you with any real reason other than faith, which is a little more honest of an answer, why why they're confident that tomorrow will be like today, and so forth. And it's the regularity of nature and the uniformity of the unity of all of these aspects of reality that permit even the term rationality or irrational. Because without the consistency of the laws of logic, the regularity of nature, that things have names, that there's some way things function, that tomorrow is like today, you couldn't actually navigate what's rational and irrational. And then I got into thinking about what's rational and whether or not, from a purely pragmatic material standpoint, that everything's just pragmatic. There's no real goal or purpose. Nothing's actually evil. From that view, nothing can be deemed irrational. It could only be deemed maybe inconsistent with the reality, you know? Someone could say it's irrational to jump off a cliff. Well, not if the goal is to jump off a cliff, right? Maybe if the goal is to fly, and the assumption is you could just fly like a bird and you jump off a cliff, that's irrational. But then again, it's given by whatever the goal is. And so you can't really assume rationality is actually a thing without an absolute source for truth and meaning. And arguing that we ought to be rational also assumes that other arm of metaphysics or philosophy called morality. No Rogans or Peterson. Yeah, I can't do it. I listened to like a blip. I think it was like, who's the Canon Press guy? Doug Wilson or something. He was talking about it. And I guess I can see how like Christians get hopeful because they hear Peterson. But I'm telling you, he's just, I believe, I honestly pray that he does actually sincerely, authentically find God and develop a relationship. But from what I've seen, it's just all like foreplay. It's just, and people get hopeful and then they prop him up, and you just got to watch that, because if he can get prominent Christians hopeful and then they prop him up, then it's just more it's like hiring a new guard for the range of discourse. It's like you're knighting someone on behalf, and then it gets people like in my comments being like, listen, think what you want about the vaccine mandate venues that he's doing, but pragmatically, and this is exactly my whole point about pragmatism. Pragmatically, it's like, it's better that he goes to all of those states because, he's a conservative Christian. And I'm like, what? Since when are we categorizing Jordan Peterson as either of those things? Just because he was like, yeah, God's a pretty good idea. It's like, oh, he's a Christian. He's devout Christian. He's sharing scripture every day. He's reading scripture every day and sharing it through his memes. Yeah, the Bible's pretty cool. He's a Christian. Why isn't irregardless a word? Well, it's redundant. It's just regardless without regard. It's like irregardless would be the absence of non-regarding, which would be to say less regardless-less. You don't say regardless-less. Ah! In the interview, he literally says his lectures are stand-up comedy. He also said something like, and I can't directly quote because this was paraphrased in a comment, but it was something like, in one stance, he's saying the Bible is the ultimate formation, the ultimate book for guidance, and then he's like, you got to, for any sort of, development, you've got to get rid of it. He also said, and this is directed toward those people who are like, he's fighting the left. He said something like, yes, and, we're in a culture where, the people who are different, the ones with the blue and pink hair, they're the only one who make any change. And you got to be so radical to make a change. It's like, no, you idiot. You just appealed to the Bible as the ultimate foundation, and you're calling the people with the colorful hair the ones trying to make a change, and you're like, no, that's not even proper. And this is how I know he either just doesn't listen or doesn't care. He's just making shit up on the spot. He's good friends with Jonathan Pajot, who doesn't have a French accent, by the way, but who's goes into depth about inversion of foundations, inversion of names, hierarchies, identities, sexes. He goes way into depth. And yet Peterson can't see that the blue-haired lesbian isn't actually making a change, that they're just inverting. They're rejecting truth and trying to pursue foundations. They want to sequester foundations because they've been built up for them. They don't want to do it themselves. They need something foundational because that's what we desire as humans. But they reject truth. But no! The Bible series sure tricked a lot of people. Yeah. It's like that character could quite easily just exist. Totally organically. But there's no way that his sustainability in the zeitgeist is organic. It's tied to a bunch of other things that are propped up, served, tended to, a part of a machine. But some intellectual who doesn't know where he's going, who's like a perfect candidate for that kind of role, might actually authentically just be like, I want to do a lecture on Bibles, and Bible studies, because it's going to be controversial and it'll make students think, and it's lacking in the academia, so it's perfect. And it's like a novelty. But once you get them on board and you go, oh, he's doing that, that's so cool. It's just like the same way PragerU. The moment some famous retard says even the slightest classical liberal slur, and I mean like mantra, not like an actual slur, like they just, maybe equality's not such a good idea. Immediately, it's on a blue and orange meme with a little PragerU logo at the top right. Oh, look, Liv Schreiber said he doesn't see male and female waiters as the same. We're winning the war. It's similar. You see someone like that in intellectual, academia, elite squad, and they say this, the slightest hint or flirtation with Christianity or something. Oh, it's so great. And that's how they get you. Because the person pointing out, look, that popular guy is now flirting with Christianity. How cool. Okay, I get it. You're responding, hopefully, optimistically, great. But that doesn't put the well-spoken, well-versed theologian in the spotlight. It merely takes the meme of Christianity and then it pulls some popularized figure, like Kanye is a perfect example of the same thing. And that's how like dominant authorized media works. And people think, oh, you're just naysay, or you just want to be in this, you're just no, I understand that system is that you can't get to that level unless you pay your dues. And who knows in some of those circles what those dues are. But the point is that mainstream mechanism wants to represent as many ideologies as possible, markets as possible, reflect as many positions as possible. And so there's sort of like that's the marketplace of ideas. It then gets represented by the best branded version of that idea that may not even represent the idea. And that's the trick. Is you go, oh, how do we pull, oh, look at this data sheet. We got 74 million, what I'm making up this number. I'm just saying, like, you know, they're sitting down somewhere with Ben Shapiro. He's like, look at that, look at the statistic. My Daily Wire has access to a lot of data. People don't really know this, but Daily Wire is pretty much not exactly on par with Google, but you know, based on the data that we need to serve us, we have adequate data, and the data says, you know, like 75 to 95 million people, you know, men and women between 30 and 45 are looking for some sort of new Christian hero. It's like some version of that stat and that data set is available. And it's like, we don't live that way because we don't just sit around looking at data. Some people do, but at our level of participation in life, what we ought to do in life is going to be governed by our theology, the people around us, our small knit community, our intuitions, and to some extent, what's pragmatic for our well-being in the immediate. It's not going to be governed by a massive list of people, emails, locations, interests, back-end Facebook data, but at a scale where, you know, you're dealing with like these authorized dealers of narratives. They need that data to compete. They can't be relevant without a little cheat code. They're not just like whipping it up. They try to put their finger on the pulse. That's why they're so astonished when more hidden people, say like Owen Benjamin, have their finger on the pulse without the data. You know, when other people have their finger on the pulse about narratives or cultural trends and where things are going, or even someone who appeals to biblical prophecy and sees the repetition of behavior and can spot it without looking at all those trends, without looking at all the data, because they're appealing to what they know to be true at a fundamental level for humans. The people with the data who run these operations, these financial operations, PragerU, Daily Wire, Jordan Peterson, Joe Rogan, right or left, it doesn't matter. They're playing a different game. And sometimes they're like, you can't participate in this because we have to work really hard to acquire this data to then, for me to go, oh, Oklahoma. It's like, oh, we saw a little data set that suggests that maybe they want Ben Shapiro to be a little more authentic and try to be a normal person. Okay, that's fine. I can definitely tend to that data set. I mean, I can definitely fill that gap. I'm gonna put on a hat. I'm gonna put on some spurs. I mean, you know, the Spurs are gonna be the Star of David, of course, but they are Spurs. I would never kick a horse, not because I think it's abuse. I'm afraid of horses. I'm afraid of horses. I don't like any animal that doesn't have fingers. It's like, what is a hoof? It's like, what is a hoof? It's like, what is actually a hoof? It's like, why, you know, like, it's like, you know, why would God make an animal that has, that the whole of their foot is actually just a giant fingernail? It's like a solid fingernail. It's like, cut your fingernail. It's like, you know, if you tell a horse to cut its fingernails, it's basically asking it to cut off his entire foot. Did Owen get the jab yesterday? I heard no. I don't even know what I was talking about. Suddenly I realized how much heat was in my car, right? And I'm just like, ugh. We have a trucking company here named Trans Kids. That's just disgusting. It's like Transportation Kid. I thought of JP playing guitar and singing Welcome to the Machine. Yeah, there were some actually really gross moments. I saw a clip that someone sent me of Joe Rogan. They were talking about the rings, and then they were talking about, like, Jordan Peterson was just like, sometimes I rotate my ring, and it's like, I don't know if it's like nervous reaction or whatever. And he's like, and Joe Rogan's like, sometimes I finger my ring. He's basically like, sometimes I just put my finger in the tight hole and I finger it and I stretch it out. And he's like, he's being like purposely disgusting and perverted, making Jordan Peterson like sort of blush, actually. And he's like, that's very Jungian. That's a Freudian slip. And he's like, why is that Freudian? And Jordan Peterson's like, it's because you're putting your finger in a tight little hole and stuff. It's like, yeah, the intellectual dark web, folks. Just crushing it with new takes on culture and reality. Thoughts on Nick Fuentes? I don't really listen to him. He's like the Carson Daly. I mean, he sounds exactly like Ben Shapiro, but he's like if MTV got launched and all those, I'm a V, what do they call it? I'm a V MC and then like a video commentator, or VC or whatever. He's like that, but for like, paleo conservatism. He's just like, I don't think any of that's very authentic. I think he's a character. He's just like kind of like, consider Andy Kaufman and who he was and what he did in one realm, and just consider that with technology and incentivized, monetary incentivization, that kind of thing, whatever we call that, performance art stuff, that I believe that kind of expression would just multiply, because there's just more people can do in more areas. They could become characters. But I just don't listen to him. I don't look at him and go, oh, he's a leader of men. There are leaders of men who don't have kids or a home or a wife, but I'm actually not certain what the distinction would be, but I know the distinction exists, and I know it when I see it. And so when I see him and listen to him, I just go, no. It's like someone who, it's almost like the personality of someone who like got really popular in Twitch gaming, and then they just basically transitioned onto a show and just swapped gaming with conservative talking points or some shit. Because the leaders, the people I want to listen to, I want to know, I want guidance to how to be a better father, be a better human, get closer to God, get better at philosophy and logic and such, get better at my skills. I want to be inspired to breathe further life into existence, whether it's children or just creativity. So no, in the totality of the 6 or 7 minutes I've ever listened to Nick Fuentes, I never once had the experience of I'm gonna go do something now. In fact, he might be someone worth taking the piss out of in Fork Face, just for the fun of it. Why are you infighting, Jim Bobby? Conservative. I just don't care anymore. What's the new character voice? I haven't been really working on anybody recently. I have a lot of homework to do. I'm behind on Michael Malice. By the way, I had a good conversation with Peter Canones. We went back and forth for a while. He was kind of pretty libertarian, and now he sees all the problems. And we had a good conversation about all of that. So go follow him, Peter Canones. He should just call himself Peter Cojones. You hear that, Peter? If you're listening, I think you might, just tweak your last name, and you could have a whole new entrance into the zeitgeist system. Contrarian 420. Hey, Contrarian. Dawkins, do you accept that materialism does not have an answer to the hard problem of consciousness? If so,
yeah, well, I could. That may be a good point at this point in time, but does not mean that we will not get there. No, does not mean that we will not achieve that in the future. It may not be in my lifetime, sadly. Yeah. Get off me! You see, little Susan, I am your daddy, yes, but and it is your birthday, but that's merely a cultural phenomenon, a custom. I will not be around for many of your birthdays, yeah.
Jim Bob, do you eat lunch? Yeah. Oh. You keep growing that beard, it may just need a voice. I think Job Bob's beard is its own character. It pretty much, I mean, it's in rough shape. So, when is that episode? I think soon. Monday, he said. He went to a conference or something. So, he said Monday. Fork Face is the son of Knife and Spoon Face. Yeah, Fork Face came about because, we could call people fork tongue because they're like liars or, split tongue, two-faced. But so we're just doing that with faces. We're presenting a split version of their face by rewriting their words for them. Shades Bear, some money for lunch. Oh, thanks. What is that? Alira? Love all the content. God bless everyone. Thank you. What else we got going on, folks? I feel like there was something specific I had and I didn't write a note. Oh, I'm going to plan on... the prints came in, I think, today. So we'll look at them. A bunch of people bought some already. The print that's for sale now is the zombie one, where the people are running, Walking Dead, and they have masks on, some of them, and they have jabs and needles all through their body and some in their head. It's very colorful and funny. So again, there's 50 of those. But after I finish these paintings of Jordan Peterson, there's one of it's a vegan painting, anti-vegan painting. I'm gonna go ahead and paint that zombie one as well on, like, say, a 20 by 20 canvas. So that'll go up for grabs as well. Been watching some of your videos lately, motivated me to literally trim my beard. Yeah, there you go. See, I'm helping in different ways. Would you debate Mr. Girl? I don't know who that is, but it sounds like an inversion. I don't know what would be debated. I don't even know who it is. I mean, that James Asprey guy still wants to talk to me with the Ask Yourself guy. I don't even know what I would, talk about. I've already seen what their positions are. So it's like, okay, you think morality is just preference and it's all subjective. Therefore, nothing is actually wrong. Okay, good luck. Good luck, being a dad. That's how I win an argument. Good luck being a dad. Just like totally appeal to dad fallacy. I think that would actually be a fallacious argument and still somehow be true. And useful and effective. It's like it's rhetoric, but it's like actually true. But it would take a lifetime to justify it. Like, oh, that's your view? Huh, it's interesting. Yeah, good luck being a dad. They're like, what? If you're a dad, it makes so much sense. It's so true, though. All these people, they're mostly video game players. I'm talking about these like vegan philosophy nerd people. They're getting their PhD in philosophy, and then they pay their bills by playing Destiny or some shit. Who knows? They're all named after video games. They play games. They get paid to play video games. They're single. It's like you really have to take that in consideration when you're arguing with someone, because you can't separate their current worldview from their current situation in life and pretend that you're going to rescue them from that worldview, given that their life isn't set up to demand a different worldview that's more true. If there's no necessity to be more coherent, or if there's no urgency to ground anything, it's all up in the air anyway. Who cares? I'll just debate and play video games. They debate and masturbate and play video games. It's like, yeah. If there's nothing else pushing you forward, like being fully responsible for the worldview of someone else and making sure whatever you're teaching them is coherent and not like, who cares about anything? Nothing really matters. Like, imagine being a father and being like, as soon as your kid can conceptualize it, that your answer is nothing really actually matters, and that the universe is a pitiless indifference. Yeah, there's nothing. There's no purpose to your existence. Yeah. It's all just eating and pooping and other things that we will not talk about. Yeah. Ew. My 2-year-old told me his truth was playing in the road with cars driving by. Exactly. Also caused me further to dwell on the reality that I don't have a wife and children, but that's a whole other thing. Kmart, a little severance package for you. Thank you. Got anything special planned in the final work? No, I don't know. Maybe if it's warmer, maybe I'll bring my ukulele and play some music in the car, but I don't know. Of course, if I bring a ukulele, I might as well wear a pair of really short jorts, because I'm going to get, made fun of for having a ukulele. By the way, not that I need any more instruments, but I think my next purchase is a banjo. Holy shit, Diatribe. That's very generous of you. That is right, we cannot judge. The jab rail. The narrow self-centeredness with the non-parent philosophers. Yeah, And I'm not surprised. I don't know why I'm even interacting. I think it's because I care. Part of me, it's pride. I wanna prove someone wrong. And then a part of it is like, oh, these young guys, you know, they're just so, everything is so atomized. It's like total nihilists. Like, they're just nihilistic. Which is bullshit, because the moment you're nihilistic and you start advocating for the view, it's a contradiction. Like a real nihilist, they're either already dead, or you never even hear their view at all, because they're just being consistent with it. I may have a spare banjo laying around. Oh, geez. I think it might suit me very well. But jorts were hijacked like the rainbow. Everything is hijacked. I mean, it's really easy to just, you know, make fun of all the ways gay culture just lands itself onto every possible culture foundation product, like a slug leaving their little slimy shit behind on an object. But it ends up just being funny at some point, you know. It's like some guy goes and gets his tail light fixed because it got cracked. Someone like hit it and he doesn't know what happened. And he's talking to the mechanic, and the mechanic's like, "Oh, well, get that fixed pretty much right on the spot. You know, you can hang around for 30 minutes. Oh, great, that's amazing. You want the gay one? You want a gay light? What are you talking about? I just, you know, we have an option if you want it to be a gay tail light. You want a gay tail light? No. I mean, what does it mean? Is it rainbow or something? Nope. It's just gay. Just on the item list we put just gay. I was thinking about that. I was listening to some debate, and some guy was trying to like say that, you know, it was a debate of whether, you know, pedos was its own sexual orientation and shit. And then the other guy was like, well, it's kind of like, you know, homosexuality. And everyone's like, oh my God, you just compared pedos to homosexuals. And they're all talking past each other. And I'm thinking, what? No. The only difference between a homosexual and a pedophile is a homosexual is attracted to people he or she can't physically have sex with. And a pedophile is attracted to people he legally can't have sex with. Both are irrational and against just normal behavior. Oh, what's normal? That's decided by culture. Well, fine. You could say whatever you want. I don't believe that, but even if we say that, okay, fine. It's still not normal. And no one ever brings that up. We've just accepted. Oh, no. It's like, I don't see anything wrong with homosexuals. You're like, they can't have sex with each other, though. So, I mean, we shouldn't even be calling them homosexuals. Like, that was the first trick. Oh, you're attracted? Oh, no, I'm just attracted to men. So you're sexually attracted to men? Yeah, I'm sexually attracted to men. No, fuck yeah. Well, you can't actually have sex with a man, so do you see that there's a little bit of a contradiction or inconsistency or something you might look into further, being that you're attracted to someone in a way that can only be expressed in a behavior that you can't actually do. What do you mean? I am sex with a man. No, you can't. You can do stuff and rename it sex, but you can't actually have sex with a man. Otherwise, you'd have to agree that if I was, you know, if shopping carts got me excited for some weird reason, then you'd have to agree that I could have sex with a shopping cart, but I can't. Or, you know, you'd have to accept any kind of behavior that at least included one sexual body part. Okay? You have to, the logical consequence of it means, and you see this in culture, the acceptance of that as a term, it's not just the behavior, it's the category. This is what I call premicide. Premicide deals with linguistics, the recategorization of things or the miscategorization of things as a tactic for cultural acceptance. And it's not accidental. It's actually based in theology. In the beginning, there was the Word. And the Word was with God, and He became flesh. And it's not just about Christ. It also means the Word, that all things in reality are based on language. That the unity that allows us to discern anything to be true, any sort of order in the world that we perceive, any regularity in nature, is all given by the fact that we can perceive it and name it. And so when you twist names and you accept new definitions and you accept new premises, the premise is women can have sex with women and men can have sex with men. And they actually can't. But even the modern conservatives, like Charlie Cuck, accept that fundamental premise. Even Ben Shapiro, oh, he's so logical, I'm so logical. You know, women can't be men. Women can't be men. Men can't be women. That is my line. Okay, Ben. Can a man have sex with a man? Well, I mean, it depends what you mean, but yeah. Why don't you say it, Ben? Say it. Well, no. I'm not gonna determine what sex, the act of sex is for people. I mean, my view is that sex is biological. You know, what two men do with each other in their own time. I mean, that's their own time, as long as they don't hurt anyone or steal anything. No, you're accepting premicide. I'm attracted to donut factories. What? The attraction, the built-in attraction for humans and animals is in pursuit of love and procreation. Is that you further what it is you see in each other. You could argue that from the strictly Darwinian perspective, or you can argue it from the theological perspective. Is that the bond of the attraction that's then built upon with love, not just sexual attraction, built on with love, is then replicated. That we're given the opportunity to replicate in the name of love as humans. And as animals, if we're strictly animals, it's still from a Darwinian perspective is that you're attracted to for the function of procreation. And you could, fine, if you don't want to hear the biblical version, oh, sex is for procreation, just take the animal version, that they're attracted to sexually, meaning the expression of that is to multiply. They're attracted to multiplying. They're drawn in to multiply. So if your attraction and how you associate attraction is given or attributed to an external object or person or thing that you can't do that with, then it's just a misdirection of that impulse. And this used to be just acceptable knowledge. It was just like, oh, you fundamentally, have a misdirection of your sexual impulses. toward objects or people that you can't actually logically and consistently express those impulses in the way that they're designed. Ben Shapiro is sexually attracted to money and war. That's actually true. I mean, the fact that I can't have sex with these concepts, or I can't have intercourse, with the holistic expression or manifestation of those things. It's like, what would I do? It's like, what would I diddle? It's like, would I diddle the bank? No, because it's not exactly the bank. It's the entirety of money and war, and they go hand in hand. It's like, which one is it? Is it actually? Is it a threesome? So I don't think so. It's like money and war. It's like a dyad. It's like a dyad. It's like, what are those things? It's like, can I touch them? Can I touch war? It's like, no, it's a feeling. And so essentially, it all goes back to myself. It's a feeling of myself, And that might be the case with other people, who misdirect their sexuality onto other objects. And really, the only thing that's happening is that they're trying to have sex with themselves in a way. And they're just pretending that they're having sex with someone else, but they're actually doing something that is not sex at all. Ugh. Ben doesn't know how to give his wife a whap. Well, they don't even sleep in the same bed. I mean, I don't want to get too personal about people's marriages. But he said it. He admitted it. He said, I went into my wife's room. Well, one night I went into my wife's room. I actually I did that one thing got deleted. It was like hate speech or whatever, the gays. There was a dude who was like, you're only making fun of gay men here. It was about like whether or not gay couples have a right, because they say they have a right to a family, but the logical follow would be that they have a right to reproductive organs outside of their little agreement. And that's not the case. Therefore, they don't actually have a right to a family. They have the right maybe to, so long as it's on the market, to purchase or rent a womb or rent a ball sack. But he was telling me, oh, you could have done it with lesbians. And I was like, either way, it doesn't matter. 2 women don't have a right to someone's sperm, and 2 dudes don't have a right to a woman's uterus. The woman, I guess, has a right to donate it. But that's not the point. And then he, he wouldn't get it. And then it got into the whole, I was just like, dude, you can't even, forget it. Ben is like the Mormon guy from that movie, Forgetting Sarah Marshall. He's just high functioning autistic, 100%. Sooner he admits that, the freer he's going to be. I bet he's never been asked that in public. You got all these, like, the Groyper people are like, Charlie Kirk, you're Israel, and you have Rob, the gay black guy on there, and what are you doing? Instead, they should just be like, Ben, are you autistic? Rights are gay. Yeah, rights are silly. They're useful. I'm glad that we all agree that that's a thing, a given, but the only thing we're agreeing is that there's a justice system that processes consequences for behavior. I mean, that's just like, okay. You can call that a right. That's like me telling my daughter, like, you don't have a right to talk to me that way. Like, that's just redundant. All you have to do is deliver the consequence. Talking about what the thing is doesn't really matter. It's like, go up to your room. I'm not going to be like, You do not have the right to disobey me and not clean up your toys. It's like, no, just go to your room. You know, the consequences are there. Talking about it, you know, all you're talking about is to what, you know, what magnitude or, you know, was your actions justified. So you have a right to self-defense. The only reason we use that term is that because we have a nearly, it's a corrupt system, but a uniform system that delivers justice, meaning a process is required and you're given the opportunity of a process to determine whether your acting in self-defense was actually justified. So you actually had a right to self-defense, but it's post action. It's the right, as you call it, is then expressed through the process. It's not expressed in the moment. I have a right to do this. It's like, no, you either defend yourself or you don't. You either take the risk or you don't. And then you deal with the consequences after, and it's determined whether it was justified or not. But you don't have no one has a right to be not killed, in other words. And so the vegans try to use this a lot. You know, we have the right not to be not killed, and animals deserve the right to be not killed. It's like, what? A right to be not killed? No, you don't. You have a right to defend yourself, but animals really don't, really. I mean, they just defend themselves. But you don't have a right to not be killed. You know why? Because everybody has the right. It's all behavior is permissible in physical reality, not morally. Not that there's no consequences legally or morally. It just means everything's actually permissible. Like, even though if it's illegal to do something, it's permissible to do it. The agreement is there's a consequence. So nobody has a right to not be killed, because if you were killed, you wouldn't have the right anyway. It would be gone if that was the case. You'd be gone, and your idea of a right would be gone. And so it's a silly way to look at it. Doesn't make any sense. You took his right to not be killed. No, he took his life. Why describe his life further with another term called a right? It's like, no, it was a life. It was a life. Can dudes get uterus implants? It will be a thing. They will have butt babies in our lifetime, unfortunately. It'll be a small percent, of course. And again, just because things exist at some micro level and then the media, right, left, pulls that little thing up to the mainstream and goes, look at this freak show. We have this impulse to assume, I do generally reject the slippery slope as a fallacy. I really do believe there is a slippery slope. But that doesn't mean that, like, just because we're in a connected world where the most ridiculous shit will find its way to the top and deliver through the guidance system and hit all the nodes, doesn't mean that thing's dominant in any given way. And that's part of the trick. Part of the trick is, it's dominant as everybody's getting jabbed and you need to also. That's dominant, right? That's the dominant narrative. Part of the trick is delivering what's not actually dominant through a narrative system that makes people think it's dominant. It's a trick. Just to clarify, you don't believe in the responsibility of men to ensure the right for life of our unborn neighbors? I don't know if you're talking to me. I don't think you're talking to me, but no. Preborn children don't have a right to live. Parents have an obligation to care for their children. You have an obligation through God to protect life and to secure it because it's valuable, because it's made in the image of God. Our lives are a gift. So just like it's like an obligation of taking care of a gift that someone gave you. But I wouldn't put it in the terms of rights. There's a trick, because if you argue in the terms of rights, it's like a materialist Christian arguing for God's existence in the material sense and trying to argue materialism. Like, oh, look at the thing over there. That's God. And look at that tree, and that's obviously God. And they might be right, but it's not a good argument, because, if you appeal to rights as the reason, all the law can change rights. They can change it. They can change what defines a right. They could arguably give animals rights, just by language alone. So you gotta be, it's really important when you argue against murder, abortion, and just the same way you argue for morality and the existence of God, that you appeal to transcendentals, that you appeal to a transcendental argument. Because that's the only way it's going to be consistent. Race to the bottom will rocket to the top these days. Well put, Conduit. That's exactly what we see. Men have an obligation to uphold the law of God. Yeah, and that's just consistent with all of that. Protecting life, not killing people, not stealing, coveting, all this shit. And also shit that's not even behavioral based, just your own spiritual well-being. Negative thought, like dark thoughts, despair. Me and Peter Cajones talked, and we, adequately distinguished that, another argument against general libertarianism is that you can have a system of people who don't steal or hurt each other at all. It's down to zero, right? And it could be fully morally degraded by the mere fact of men acting against themselves, defiling themselves. This is a key distinction. It means that morality isn't strictly a one to other basis. It's a one to self basis. See you, hoodly daddle. This is the dawning of the age of hilarious. Age of hilarious. Hilarious. Okay, guys, I gotta go. It's been 62 minutes. Thanks for the very generous super chats from all of you. I really appreciate the support. I will need it going forward. As I get closer to quitting my job, February 28th is my last day. I'll probably ramp up on trying to sell the prints that I make and painting more and selling one-off paintings and just doing a lot of full-on creativity, whether it's music, painting, memeing, books, working with Forkface, doing more stuff. I'm in the zone of like pure creativity now, and I just want to, I'm really energized. So you guys are in for a treat, and I'm in for a treat, because there's nothing more fun and fulfilling than using your gifts at a prolific rate of production. Yo. Did you say address? I don't know if that's addressed to me. Oh, address. Oh, like for support, or if you want to send me a vintage hat. Made by Jim Bob, 10940 South Parker Road, number 814, Parker, Colorado, 80134. All right. Later.